Well, I've known Larry and Brenda Nelson. I was thinking about that. It's probably 40 years ago, because I moved back here in 1979 and I met John First Baptist Church. So I've known them a very, very long time. Most people remember Larry as being in People's Bank for security forever, president, and Brenda at the KTLO radio station for many, many years. But a few weeks ago, they came and spoke to the Kiwanis Club that I attend to about this Patriot Guard. And so I thought, with Veterans Day coming up in a couple of weeks, what's more appropriate than to have them come share this, because it's very, very touching and moving. So here's Larry and Brenda Nelson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ease these lights down a little bit here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, just a little. That's
She asked
great.
if we needed the microphone. I said, yeah, Sonny's
Okay, it needs to
going
be
deaf
up.
on the back
There you
row.
go. That's good.
So he didn't even hear that.
Say it again, Larry. All right, here we go. I'll hold it. Oh, I can't hold it. You see it. Okay.
One day in late 2011, we were driving back from church, came by the old Holiday Inn, and Brenda pointed over to the right. She said, "There's a motorcycle we ought to buy." And I said, "You got to be kidding! We've never ridden one." And so I bought it the next day.
You ladies understand that.
I had to have the salesman ride it to the house because I didn't know how. And so we have been riding around the country on a Honda Goldwing trike ever since. We've had a lot of fun. Been to 45 states and 95,000 miles on it, so we've had a good time. But the previous owner of the trike told us about an organization that stood flag lines at veterans' funerals, and he thought we'd not be interested in that. So I looked up their website and I found this information. This is a quote: "The Patriot Guard Riders, or PGR, is a 100% volunteer organization. Our main mission is to attend the funeral services of our country's heroes, fallen law enforcement, military, and emergency personnel, to show our respect for them and their service, and to protect them from any unwanted interruptions. We participate only at the request of the family. We don't just show up." The group was formed in 2005, and although initially founded by motorcyclists, the organization is open to anyone. But I'm still quoting from their website, but we have one thing in common. We have an unwavering respect for those who risk their very lives for America's freedom and security. We don't care what you ride or if you ride, what your political views are, whether you're a hawk or a dove. It's not a requirement that you be a veteran. The only prerequisite is respect. And that's the end of the quote. There are no membership fees and no minimum number of missions you have to ride each year to remain active. We receive email notifications of missions that are close to us in our area, and each of us pays our own way to and from the missions, wherever that may be. And we attend whenever we can. We don't have to attend all the time.
How many of you saw the movie American Sniper? I hope you stayed to the very end of that, because at the end they showed the real funeral procession for U.S. Navy SEAL and sniper Chris Kyle. The final video showed literally thousands of PGR motorcycles who escorted this American hero over 200 miles through a pouring rain from Texas Stadium in Dallas to the Texas State Cemetery in Austin. That is what the Patriot Guard does. And since Larry is a Vietnam veteran, we knew that this was something we absolutely wanted to do. Now, I might tell you that from this point on, all the remaining photographs in tonight's program were actually taken by Larry or me during the following rides. Our very first mission was in August of 2012 for an 89-year-old U.S. Marine veteran of World War II and a local fire chief in Gainesville, Missouri. Riders from Arkansas met the Missouri riders at the staging area outside the funeral home. Now, in most instances, we are asked to do two things. One is to stand a flag line before the services, and we usually stand that anywhere from an hour, 30 minutes to an hour ahead of time. We stand at attention, holding the American flag, usually in silence. And So the family and friends are greeted as they come through with the honor of the American flag. And then the second part is usually to then mount up and escort the family and the hero to their gravesite. So the first part of this mission was standing the flag line before the funeral. The second part was to provide an escort to the cemetery with the local fire trucks and emergency personnel following behind us. And that's because he was retired military, but he was also the fire chief. Now, at the cemetery, Marines provided military honors, including a 3-volley salute, and presented the folded American flag to the family. Now, remember, this is our very first mission. We really didn't have any idea what it was going to be like. We expected it to be emotional. But when they so meticulously folded that American flag, and then the Marines bent on one knee and handed the flag to the wife and said, "On behalf of a grateful nation." Wow. I was standing in a flag line, just barely holding back tears. And then we stood there in this little tree-shaded cemetery, and there was, in the field below us down there were cattle and horses grazing. It was just such a beautiful setting. And then over our right shoulder, they began to play taps. And I'm telling you, I was fighting back tears. And then
We were standing a flag line in a semicircle around the gravesite, and having been a fire chief, the firefighters were standing in that line with us. And we got toward the end of the ceremony, and I heard, well, I knew we were near the end, but we weren't at the end. And I heard one of the firefighters give the command, "Firefighters, pagers on," and they all turned their pagers on. And I thought, boys, you're getting a little ahead of us. And then I heard the squawk come, "Vox 28, respond." I thought, that's terrible. Vox 28, respond. And I was just about to tell those firefighters what I thought about their manners when I heard Vox 28, final call. "We're going to miss you, Mr. Fox." And I remembered that the gentleman we were putting in the ground that day was named Albert Fox. I didn't know the firefighters do that, but if you're ever at one of their funerals, get ready for it, because that'll happen.
In October of 2012, our second mission honored the accidental death of PFC Lawrence Young, who was only 22 years old when he was killed at Fort Hood. His father, who is also a PGR member, actually led the motorcycle escort for his son to the Missouri Veterans Cemetery outside of Springfield, where full military honors awaited his son, Private Young. In November of 2012, we were asked to attend the services for Kenneth McCutcheon, a member of the U.S. Navy Reserve, and we stood his flag line beside our friends and doctors in the Harrison area, James and Terry Coates. Both of them are also Patriot Guard riders and our friends from the Rotary Club in Harrison, Arkansas. In 2013, we headed back down over the mountain, stopping at the Buffalo River here to meet up with the Central Arkansas PGR for this mission.
In the spring of 2013, the Patriot Guard was asked to honor the last skipper of the submarine, USS Razorback, which is permanently moored in the Arkansas River in North Little Rock. We were there to attend a burial at sea with full military honors for Captain Truett Talbot, Jr. In the Navy, the ship's captain is referred to by the name of the vessel he commands, in this case, Razorback. And when the ship's captain boards or departs the ship, sailors standing watch make an announcement to the crew and ring the ship's bell. So as Talbot's ashes were placed in the Arkansas River by his surviving family, this boat's bell was rung, and it was announced, Razorback departing.
On Memorial Day of 2013, Patriot Guard riders across the state were invited to participate in the annual ceremonies at the Arkansas Veterans Cemetery in Sherwood. Then Governor Mike Beebe and dignitaries from all the branches of the service laid the wreath and honored those that are buried there. The 3-volley salute and the playing of taps are always some of the most emotional moments of any mission. The symbolic empty table is set for prisoners of war and missing in action. The place settings represent all 4 branches of the service, and they are a reminder that these people are never forgotten, and that we continue to hope for their return, although I'm sure for the family that must just feel impossible after so many years and decades. But in an unbelievable mission, we joined with the Oklahoma and Missouri Patriot Guard to help escort the remains of U.S. Army Corporal Eldon Irvin, who was killed in North Korea in 1950, at that time 65 years ago. Now this old gentleman is Brigadier General Simmons, and he had served with Irvin in Korea and had seen him die in the freezing weather of December in the famous Battle of Chosin Reservoir. Years later, General Simmons wrote a book called The Frozen Chosin, and with information from that book, U.S. officials were finally able to recover his remains and return Irvin to his 5 living siblings. We stood his flag line in Miami, Oklahoma, and then we escorted him through Missouri down the streets of Seneca to his family gravesite on top of a small hill. His sister told us at the cemetery that she had waited 65 years to put flowers on his grave on Memorial Day. And as we stood there in the cemetery, I thought, thank you, Lord, tonight they finally know where he is.
In 2013, our mission was writing for Marine Corporal Benjamin Tuttle, a 19-year-old KIA killed in action in Operation Enduring Freedom. This was a 2-part mission. The first part was to meet the hero at the airport. As Tuttle arrived at Exit A in northwest Arkansas and was transferred to the hearse, the Patriot Guard riders were called to attention and given the present arms command. They responded with a 3-second salute, a slow display of respect, with veterans performing a hand salute and non-veterans placing their hand over their heart. Then we escorted him to the Benton County Funeral Home, where his family was waiting for him. 2 days later, we stood a flag line outside his church, with hundreds more joining along the way in the streets of his hometown of Gentry, Arkansas. Then we mounted up and escorted him to the gravesite about 13 miles away at Coffell Cemetery. There were 3,000 American flags at 6-foot intervals on both sides of the road from the church out to the highway as far as they would go. All along the route, people stopped by the roadside to show their respect as we took him to his final resting place. At the cemetery, we picked up the flags again and proceeded to the gravesite to stand the flag line. Near the end of the services, a U.S. Marine approached the grave, rendered a slow hand salute, did an about-face, and slowly walked away.
Every once in a while, we will get a notice about a mission that is just so extraordinary that we change all of our plans just to attend. Earlier this year, the PGR was asked to provide escort for a 3-day mission. The final services were at the Arkansas Veterans Cemetery as we brought 28-year-old U.S. Army Private Rudolph Johnson home. Johnson was killed in Italy in 1943, 75 years ago. He had served with the Army's only all-black unit in the European campaign. It was such an honor to return him to his family and friends, most of whom had never even met him. He had been gone so long. But they thanked us over and over for remembering him and rendering our full respect to him. This young man was from Arkansas, had served and died for this country at a time when he wasn't even allowed to eat in the same mess hall as the white soldiers.
we'd like you to know that before we begin any mission, we always turn toward one of the large parade flags on the bikes for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer from one of our riders. These are our Patriot Guard ride captains discussing the details of an upcoming mission with the U.S. Army's officer in charge.
We were back in Little Rock again to honor Army Sergeant Jamar Hicks, who was killed in action in Afghanistan on his 22nd birthday. When the church services concluded, we were given the kickstands up, so we mounted our bikes and escorted Sergeant Hicks through downtown Little Rock to the Arkansas Veterans Cemetery with his young wife, baby son, and family following behind us. As we passed the honor guard, we noticed an old soldier who had been seated there on that walker, now standing and raising his hand in salute as we brought the hero home. In 2014, we rode for 95-year-old Wendell Altag, a U.S. Navy survivor of the Pearl Harbor attack and one of the very first U.S. Seabees. We escorted his body to a small family cemetery in Rosebud, Arkansas. And with only a few family there, and of course no friends who could perform the service for him, PGR members were recruited and honored to serve as Mr. Altag's pallbearers. Now, Mr. Altag was one of the fortunate ones who survived Pearl Harbor, because over 2,400 servicemen and women were lost during that attack. Seaman First Class Ernest Ray West was aboard the battleship the USS Oklahoma when it went down on December the 7th, 1941, killing 429 crewmen on the Oklahoma alone. It was our true honor recently to help return this World War II Navy sailor to his family after 77 years. Larry and I were privileged to spend most of 2 days with his only surviving relatives, an 83-year-old niece and her son from Central Arkansas. Her mother, his 101-year-old sister, lived 2 weeks after she was told that he had been found and would be returned. We met Seaman West at the airport and helped escort him to the funeral home on one day, and then the next day, our PGR family stayed over to attend his services, to serve as his pallbearers before escorting him to the Veterans Cemetery in Sherwood. It was an emotional 2-day mission that we will never forget. Welcome home, Sergeant Seaman West. On this mission, we met Central Arkansas riders for a flag line only in Conway to honor 89-year-old PFC Julian White, who had served with the U.S. Marines in the famous battles in the Pacific of Guadalcanal, Samoa, Guam, and Okinawa, for which he was awarded the Presidential Citation for heroic performance of duties in spite of his own life-threatening injuries. Well, as you can tell, most of the Patriot Guard missions that we do are for veterans or fallen heroes, but we also stand flag lines and ride escort for law enforcement and emergency personnel. 2 years ago, we rode to Fort Smith for the services of former Marine and Sebastian County police officer Bill Cooper, who had been killed in the line of duty 2 months before his retirement date. The canine cop that was with him was shot twice but miraculously survived the incident. We stood Cooper's flag line around the gravesite of this Vietnam veteran, joined by hundreds of law enforcement and military personnel from all over the United States. And when the local firefighters, Fife and Drum Corps, began to play Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. There wasn't a dry eye.
When we got the notice about this mission, we knew we had to do it, even though it would be a long, hot ride in Arkansas in August. Staff Sergeant Jonathan Turner, a 17-year Marine Corps veteran who had served 7 deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, had died in California. The Patriot Guard mission statement read, quote, "Staff Sergeant Turner's family is not local to California, so his Marine family has made all the arrangements. Sergeant Turner's blood family will not be present for his service. The funeral home was instructed to send his urn to his mother. We do not want this hero to be shipped back in a FedEx box. So we're in the process of putting together a cross-country relay of PGR members to take his ashes and his flag home to his mother in Georgia." So the Northwest Arkansas unit met the Oklahoma PGR at the I-40 near the Arkansas border. During a solemn white glove ceremony, Sergeant Turner's ashes and flag to our unit. We also received a plaque and a PGR Bible for his mother, being signed here by State Ride Captain David Cohn. From there, our riders took him halfway to Memphis to meet the other team from Central Arkansas. And in another solemn white glove ceremony, Ride Captain Norm Breath charged the new Ride Captain, Jerry Ashby, to faithfully discharge his duties to complete the Arkansas mission to Tennessee. So after several days of nonstop escort across 9 states by hundreds of volunteer riders covering 2,150 miles, this went down as the longest Patriot Guard mission on record and became known as the Pony Express Ride.
You'd think after doing this 60 times, it wouldn't get to us, but it does every time. Of all of the missions, and here it says of all the 24 missions, I think we've done 58 now, old script. Of all the nearly 60 missions now that we have ridden, this next one was probably the most special one to me. Most likely because Larry had served with the U.S. Navy as a U.S. Navy officer assigned as an advisor to the Vietnamese Navy during the war. And I was so grateful that he got to come home when 58,220 did not return. This was called the repatriation service for U.S. Army Major Dale W. Richardson, who was 28 years old when he died during Vietnam. He was killed in action during a firefight on May the 2nd, 1970, just before Larry arrived over there. But his remains had only recently been recovered. And finally, this decorated combat hero was returning home after 45 years. We met him and his family at the Clinton National Airport in Little Rock and escorted them 130 miles non-stop to his hometown of Mountain View, Arkansas. During the final 70 miles of that 130 miles, we were just absolutely overwhelmed by all the citizens and school groups that came out to show their respect as we passed by. We invite you now to ride along with us as we take this fallen hero home. This Patriot Guard patch reads, Almighty God, thank you for sending me on this mission. Please, Lord, give me the strength to stand for this fallen hero and accept this brave person in peace on the journey to your kingdom.
It's been a high honor for us to ride with the Patriot Guard riders and to stand for those who stood for us. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
You have any scheduled coming up?
We usually get noticed about 1 or 2 days before the mission. The process is if the funeral home notifies the family that the Patriot Guard is available if they request it, then there will be a request sent to National that comes back down to the state, and they send out an email to the people who are in the area. We usually get notifications of all the Arkansas and some of the southern Missouri missions.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
We
We keep
can't
up
go
with
to-
Oklahoma as
Yeah,
well.
we can't go to all of them, but like some of them, when we saw what it was, we had to go. No, it's usually short notice.
Wow.
And the members who can attend do. Not everybody can go every time. We have relatively few missions in our area, but the guys in Little Rock and Northwest Arkansas, they may have 2 or 3 a week. So they're real busy. It's all volunteer. Everybody pays their own way. So it's an honor. Some of these guys look rough. I mean, we're not your typical biker-looking people. I'm a banker and she's a radio person. Some of them have got facial hair that it's just different.
It's cool. Some of them are braided, or they ponytailed with a little clip down here at the bottom, or their hair is like down to their waist. I mean, we look approachable, most of those people. When you see them, you probably would not want to go and speak with them, but I'm telling y'all, they're some of the most wonderful people you've ever met. And a lot of the Christian motorcycle group, the Road Riders for Jesus, I mean, they're all members of these. Some of them are the chaplains that work at the veterans hospitals. And so, I mean, we've met some wonderful friends and some wonderful people. And a lot of them are still working, so they go if they can on a weekend, but we're free, of course, to go most of the time when we can. Sometimes we just can't. And we regret every mission we don't get to do, because it is such an honor to get to go and get to meet new people and get to see some of our friends there as well. They handed me this. Tonight I had to go to my Sunday school supper before I came here. And this is a new thing that, may I mention that? Because we're here talking about the military. First Baptist Church this coming Thursday morning is starting a new thing called The Bunker. And it is going to meet every Thursday morning at 6:30. There'll be coffee and donuts or something to eat. And it is really just a time for the veterans to come and meet together, talk if they want to talk, share if they want to share, just someplace.
Information.
Yeah, information. They'll have a lot of things. We're going to be speaking to them the Thursday after Veterans Day. And so it's a really neat thing. It's just called Helping Our Heroes. And it's kind of I think a neat thing. So I don't know if you know of anybody that might be interested. I'm going to leave this up here if anybody wants to come and pick that up and find out a little bit more about it. But we thank you all so much for letting us come and share. As you can tell, it's special to us.
You mentioned the part of the mission of your group is to deal with interruptions.
Right.
Preclude interruptions. Have y'all ever had to encounter that?
We have not. Some of the people we ride with have. The group formed out in Kansas with an American Legion motorcycle group. There is I forget now the name of the church. It's Backwoods Baptist Church or something. West, yeah. It's not, I'm Baptist, but that's not my brand. They've been showing up at funerals, protesting, saying all sorts of things and holding up signs during the funeral at the gravesite. And there was a group of motorcyclists from the American Legion that went out and got their Harleys going. We ride a Honda, you can't hear it, but they started revving their motors so that they couldn't hear what the protesters were saying. That's where it began. they went back and said, we're the new Patriot Guard, and then the name stuck. And the old man, the senior pastor of that church has since died. The family's carrying on, but we have not personally been somewhere where that has happened. But the Patriot Guard position on anything like that is we're there to show respect and to guard the family. We will not confront, we will not speak to them, we won't do anything as far as people who might be there to protest. That's just not all. Yeah.
As you can see, we've never encountered anything but respect for the
Yeah.
people that we've ridden for. Everywhere we go, I don't care if we're on a little 2-lane country road or we're on the interstate. There was one there where we were riding down the interstate at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and people literally pull to the edge of the interstates and stop on the highway to let us go by. And they always give us wide margins so that nobody interferes. We've had somebody that actually accidentally merged in to the middle of us and just immediately pulled over to the side to get out of the way for us to take them by. So most people show nothing but respect, which is really emotional for us. But when you see somebody stopped on the side of the road that gets out of their vehicle and stands at attention or salutes or puts their hand over their heart, I just think, if this is getting to me, think of the family that's right behind us that is riding along and knows that they're doing that for their loved ones. So,
And a lot of time we have law enforcement escort.
oh yeah.
So we don't always,
Yeah.
but a lot of times, particularly in high traffic areas, we'll have law enforcement
The
leading
first,
the way
yeah.
so they'll know something's coming.
Yeah, the first time that we were going through Little Rock, they will always tell us, today we have law enforcement, LEO is what they call it, law enforcement, that'll be here to escort us. And we didn't know what that meant the first time we'd been to Little Rock, and we're riding along on our motorcycle, and I mean, some car goes flying past us at about 80 miles an hour. And I thought, well, my goodness, there must have been an accident up there or something. And then you realize they're what they call leapfrogging. One man, as we go by, one man is parked over here blocking an intersection to keep anybody from merging into us. And as soon as we get past him, he leapfrogs, runs around and gets to the second one down. And then the next guy's up here at this one. And then they just keep doing that to keep anybody from moving into the procession. So they know what they're doing. And it makes us feel safer, because the one where we were in Miami, Oklahoma, they had been doing a mission the day before, and a lady ran a red light and killed one of our riders at an intersection somewhere in northern Oklahoma. So there are dangers.
Brenda, did you learn to drive as well?
Oh no, I'm just a passenger.
With the camera.
We wish we could have brought it, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm sitting, ours is a traditional trike. It's not one of the ones that, I call it, looks like a lawnmower, the ones that have the 2 in the front and the 1 in the back. Ours is a traditional trike with 1 wheel and then 2 big ones in the back. So it's basically, at the back end of our motorcycle is as wide as our Jeep is. And so I'm sitting there in a big leather lounge chair with my feet up. I've got 2 big armrests, and I just sit there and go to sleep. I look around, I sing, I take pictures. I mean, I am in the lap of luxury back there, which is probably the reason that we can ride 100,000 miles and really live to tell about it, because it is so
You
comfortable.
see the movie Driving Miss Daisy? Driving Miss Brenda.
Yeah, Joe.
What speed do you ride at, and do you haul it to your destination?
No, are you talking about we're in the PGR? They
If
usually,
we're on 2-lane roads, we're probably somewhere around 45 to 55. Depends on how fast the hearse is going a lot of times. But if we get up on the interstate,
yeah.
they will tell us in the notice, well, besides the notice of when and where, they'll tell us what the weather forecast is. And they will say, bring your big flags if they will stand highway speeds. Because if we get up on the interstate and that flag starts flapping in the back, it may not make it. Ours will, but they warn you about that.
Yeah.
They also, if the weather's going to be really bad, they say, tell us what the forecast is, and they say cages are welcome. That's what they call a vehicle. If you're not on your bike. They call
You're
it-
in a cage. Y'all
you're
are
in a
in
cage.
cages.
You're in a cage.
Y'all are all in cages.
We brought our cage tonight. That's just what this way. But we may be going 65, 70 miles an hour down the interstate.
It depends. The ride captain usually sets that speed, and we just all stay in a staggered position. We, being the three-wheeler, we pretty much ride in the middle of the lane, but now if there are two just motorcycles in front of us, they will be staggered. So you're never right beside anybody. You'll be staggered, and then the three-wheelers usually have the lane to themselves. There's nobody close to us. And you're talking about riding. The joke between us is, I've been married to Larry 50 years, and I've never known him to drive the speed limit. And our joke is, we were going through the
Family secret.
we were going through the Bonneville Salt Flats. Y'all know where that is, where they set the land speed record. It was 80, and Larry was doing 67. So, but you know what? He takes really good care of us, and he's really careful with us and constantly attentive, because when you are on a bike, you're accepting a risk that most people don't have. So he is extremely careful with us. And my mom told me, she said, I don't worry about you on the motorcycle when you're gone, because I know Larry will take really good care of you.
That's the first time she's publicly admitted I was doing 67. She calls it 65.
The truth was it was 65, but he always says it was 67. So I was going to give him credit for 2 more miles an hour.
So when you leave here to go
Huh?
to another, when you leave here to go to another state, do you haul the cycle?
No, didn't buy it,
You
drag it
ride
around and bought it ride.
No,
You
wait, no,
ride
what
it
now?
from here?
Do we put the bike on a trailer?
Do we trailer it? Oh, no, we ride it every single mile of the
From
thing.
home out there and then back?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did 5 weeks and 6,700 miles up into Canada. And then we've done, oh gosh, I don't know, 67, I mean, we'll be gone for a month or more on the motorcycle. And we carry I carry 2 pairs of black jeans. I carry 5 short sleeve t-shirts, 5 long sleeve t-shirts, and then our bottom trunk has nothing but riding gear in it, either something heavy, something light, rain gear. We ride in the rain, unless it's a storm. We don't ride in a storm, but we ride in the rain, and it's so cool to ride around out there. If you like a tin roof when it's raining on a tin roof, you should hear it hitting on your helmet. It's really neat. We stay dry and we stay safe, but we have thoroughly enjoyed it. And for people who'd never been on a motorcycle till we were 65 years old, that was pretty cool to know that we've got almost 100,000 miles behind us. And tonight we were saying, man, if we didn't have to do that this weekend, we would head off to somewhere, just to go ride around somewhere during this pretty time of the year. So too busy right now.
I was fortunate enough to get involved with the Patriot Guard as a non-motorcycle rider for the last 2 years, and I am so proud to be part of that. But all of a sudden it stopped. I wasn't getting any more emails or anything.
They changed the national website, and you had to go back to sign in again. They sent out.
Well, I've talked to everyone in town, and they said they're not getting them either.
I think
We
most
are.
of the people, well, we do.
DAR is not even giving, I get them from DAR, and they
Yeah.
weren't even getting them either, because the funeral homes don't give it to anybody anymore for some reason.
Well,
But
the funeral homes aren't the ones that send those out. The National sends those out to us. So, I mean, maybe you're on a different link than we are.
okay, somehow got disconnected. But I
Yeah.
want to thank you for what you do, because it is probably one of the most rewarding things that I have ever been involved in.
Mhm.
And everyone has veterans in their family,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they've all.
Well, anybody can sign up. I went to the website,
Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
signed up. There's no
What's the
fees.
website
and
again?
Yeah.
What is the website?
PatriotGuardRiders.com. If you Google Patriot Guard Riders,
Okay.
Yeah,
it'll
go ahead
come
and
up.
try to sign
And
that
there
in
is, you
again.
can do it, I got them from Mountain View all the way to
Yeah. Yeah.
30 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
you
would
could
give
kind
you
of
one
sort-
day's notice, but I would go.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can kind of pick the area where you want to know what's going on.
Yeah. I am on the Facebook page for Missouri, southern Missouri, and the Springfield area, Oklahoma, I'm not on the Kansas one, but sometimes we ride with the people from Kansas. And then we're also on Northwest Arkansas, Central Arkansas, and so we keep up with all of them that way. But the only way we know about any mission comes from the national to our ride captain, and then he sends it on to us. So I would go and try it again.
I'm sorry, how is your national group informed? How do they know what this is about?
There's a website, on the national website, there's a thing you can click on, said request a mission. You click on that and give them the date and the time and whatever, and national will contact the state ride captain and say, here's the details coming up, you need to contact the funeral home and law enforcement and see what you can put together. But that's how that goes.
Yeah.
And there have been times when the family was split on whether or not they wanted the Patriot Guard there or not. And if there's anybody that really doesn't want us there, we don't go.
Yeah.
We're not about confrontation.
Is it Patriot Guards Riders or what?
Patriot
Guard
Guard Riders. I bet it's .org. Is it .org or .com?
I don't know.
Try it and see. You can Google it, you'll find it.
Google it.
Yeah.
Google's one.
Yeah, yeah.
Other
Thank
questions?
you all so
Thank
much
you.
for letting us come and share this. We love this story. Thank you so much.